I just do this because I like looking at myself. So. It'll take a moment for the actors to get changed, but we can go ahead and definitely get started. Before we start with questions from y'all, a question from us. How many people here had actually heard of Henry Box Brown before of this play? Oh, we got some big hands over there. Yeah. Okay, interesting. And another quick question. How many people here is the first time you've been to Undermain Theater? Let's see. Just look at that. Wow. We are so glad you're here. Thank you. Thank you for coming out. Where do we want to start? Why don't we start kind of with maybe Jiles, your first impressions of like being handed the script and what you saw, what you hesitated.
Yeah. Absolutely. So I have said a couple times today that Bruce DuBord, the artistic director here, always gives me the challenging shows that make me question myself and make me question, can I really pull this off? And then I lean into the challenge. When I read this show, I immediately said, no, I think I'm gonna pass on this one. And because it jumps so many worlds, we go so many places, it's full of magic. There is Afro-surrealism that is all through the play, and it's also a historical tale that has some artistic license on top of it. So I said, whoa, that's a lot. But then I read it again and I said, you know what? This is a great challenge. This is something that you can really sink your teeth into and tell the authentic story of Henry Box Brown, and then also give Nancy a voice, because history really erased her. It says this was his wife, and then never says anything else about her. So really to give that that world to Nancy, and then to give some agency to Jane, because this random woman walked into your house in your life, and I would tell Bryan the actor, as Henry, I don't envy your position, because there's no right answer at that moment, because both of them are legitimately your wife, and you did nothing wrong. Yeah. So that's kind of where I sat, and I really want to just tell that authentic story, and then really think about how we use the title, box him in at all times. And I was like, yeah, Bryan, you're getting boxed in again. But that's really like how we came to this story, just to really tell the authentic story and really play with how at every turn that he finds he paints himself into a corner, life paints him into a corner, challenges paint him into a corner, and like how does he rise above that?
I have a quick question for our managing producer, Anthony L. Ramirez. Are any of the shows we do not challenging? Okay. I just kind of wanted to set the record straight.
One way or the other.
Absolutely.
If they were all easy, why would we do them?
For sure.
Sorry, I had to throw that out there. Okay. Any questions from anybody in the house? How you do the magic?
So yeah, right at intermission, my son was like, "Hey, Dad, those are my two boys over there. How did they do the magic?" And I was like, "A magician never reveals his secrets." But so we have an amazing magic consultant, John, who literally guided the cast in how to create this believable magic that you all saw on stage. And like, hats off to John. He was doing a trick, literally I was sitting right there, and he was teaching magic. And he had we're looking for the card, he was just in the deck, and he was literally holding it in my face, and I never saw it until I looked up. And so it was those moments that I will never forget, but two, that really showed the cast of how that sleight of hand works and how to really like divert the attention.
So the tricks just do themselves.
And Bryan, JuNene, how do you do the magic? How was it learning the magic? What are your thoughts on that?
So I pretend I play cards. Like, I play a mean hand of spades. I mostly talk shit. I have a potty mouth. But like John teaching me how to manipulate the cards and flip them over, it really looks like I kind of know what I'm doing when I'm in the scullery with Pearl. Just because I took a deck of cards home and I practiced, my fingers got cramps. I could never do that That's what it's called? See, I don't even know what it's called. I can never do that thing and the cards they would go everywhere. But it was really fun learning how to do sleight of hand, learning how to do some odd things with the cards. Now I feel like I'm a bootleg magician.
That's the thing. I mean, when I met John, he showed me all these things, and I would try them, and I'd be like, I can't do that. He's like, that's okay. As long as you do that and that, we're good. I'm like, okay, let me record it. So it was like, oh my God. It was like, so it was so much fun to learn those tricks and just, I mean, but it's also kind of deceiving in a way because you're like, I don't want to know how it works, but I have to learn how it works. So now I'll never look at magic the same the way I never look at theater the same because I think of the other side of it and I'm like, well, look at his other hand. Or stop looking where he's telling you to look. So it's kind of, you get to see behind the scenes and you're kind of like, nah, I want to reject that for now.
Question over here.
What was it like working with a voice coordinator for accents?
What was it like? What?
Like working with a voice coordinator for accents.
Oh, she's great.
Yeah.
She's absolutely wonderful. I've worked with her. She's my only person that I've worked with that I've had to have accent coaching. She's fabulous. Yeah, we love her. I think everybody can speak to that too.
It was hard for me not to slip into it because I was like, no,
Yeah.
everybody's talking to I can't do it. I can't do it. I want to match you, but I shouldn't. But I got to match Nancy a little bit. But everybody else was like, I was like, I don't get to do it.
Yeah, I think I slipped in it a little bit. Giles had to give me the note. He was like, yeah, when you come out, that's not how you're supposed to be talking. But it's so hard to keep from, talking like that because everybody's doing it and I want to do it as well. But that's not Nancy. She wouldn't talk like that. Nancy, she's a little more gangster.
I think that Steve Young was probably given the most widest array of accents that he's done.
Yeah, he
He's
was.
in Cornwall and upper class and middle or lower class, and I have a dear friend in England, and a lot of times when we get together, we end up talking about accents, and he knows all the regional accents and explaining this locally. So I certainly got a lot out of seeing that and showing our vocal person is absolutely wonderful. We worked with her for years.
And I just want to jump in that Anne really wanted to lean into the strengths of the story, and then also to be authentic to who the characters are. So so we play with the thing called code switching for Henry, and when does he do he came from slavery. He moved to Philadelphia, moved to England, so he's not quite English, so he wouldn't have that accent. But where's his accent? Where's his speech at? And then when he gets with his slave wife, when does he drop into that dialect? And to really play the authenticity and to have Anne in that moment, it was gold because she was able to help us navigate those challenges.
And Jane is a historical character, right? She existed.
Yes.
That seems to be unusual, even for somebody famous, to have a multicultural marriage during that time.
It was one of the first on record. for
Really?
England. Yeah.
Fascinating.
In the back, in the back.
He asked, who did Henry end up picking?
They cut him in half, man.
It's like Solomon with the baby.
Yeah. Who do you think he picked? Nancy. Okay, so I mean that's one of the things we talked about. Like it doesn't say who he picks. It's really up to interpretation and what you think happened at the end. And I love that Jared wrote it that way. That there is no clear. This is the person. Did this really happen? Was it a dream? Was he thinking about it? Are we back at that moment? Like what happened at the end? And I think it's great for dinner after, great for the car ride home. It's great for Facebook, in the morning when you say go see this show because it's playing for 2 more weeks. But in those moments, it's great for that.
I just want to know how you guys warm up before going on stage, or if you're nervous, you know, how many times you do this, you still have nerves, and how do you calm them before you go on?
Your ritual?
Yeah.
I do a physical warm up before I get here that I do at my house because luckily I'm not far from the theater. If I'm farther from the theater, I will do it at the theater. A physical vocal warm up, I create a character specific playlist that I listen to like while I'm getting, because music puts me very in tune with the time period and what I need out of that character. For me, that's my process.
Yeah, I do it here in the space before every show. I didn't do it tonight though because, as you can tell, my voice is a little. So no warming up today, but usually I do. Me and Lulu have our ritual. But she don't. But we have a ritual that we do before each performance.
I think a lot about that is what do you need to get out of warm up? For me, it's excitement.
Yeah.
And I've learned over time to turn that nerve into an excitement. That nervousness is now exciting because I love these folks up here and I trust them. So when you are prepared and you've done the work, you know you may say the wrong line, you know somebody will help you. For me, it melts away the nervousness, and then I'm just excited because I get to tell the story again, and I'll never get to tell it again after March 23rd. No matter what happens, I'll never get to tell this story with this group again. So I enjoy the excitement of that.
It's very true.
No matter how often you do this, there's still some amount of nerves. No matter how much you prepare, it's like, damn, I dropped that line. You know, no matter how much, there's still some thing. I walk the space when I'm here. Like I take my shoes off, I ground. I'm like, you know, I have a diffuser in the back. I have a whole little altar situation that I do for every show. It's just nerve calming because I have anxiety, and so it can take over. I never look at people in the audience. You can tell me who's here, but I'll never look out. I don't want to see you. I don't want to see you digging in your nose because then I'm gonna miss my line. So I focus on the back. I'm looking straight so I don't get distracted. Just because there's so many things that could knock you off your feet, no matter how prepared, no matter how much you've done it.
It's knees and shoulders for me. I'm looking at your knees and I'm looking at your shoulders. Because that way you think I'm looking at you, and I'm always looking at knees and shoulders.
Knees and shoulders.
Yeah, knees and toes, heads and shoulders.
So, I'm a historian. I found this incredibly accurate. Like all the history, the politics. I've done research on some of these periods. It's very accurate. Oh yeah, it's very accurate. I was just wondering what research did the playwright do? Like the accents, very good, but like the actual politics, what research was done?
So that'll probably be a Jared question. Amazing playwright. I know when we talked, he said he did extensive research on who Henry Box Brown was, and really like being able to tell his story authentically, thinking about the class levels, thinking about what Henry would have experienced at leaving Virginia, going to Philadelphia, then moving to England, and like what that trajectory looks like, thinking about the act that was passed where he could be hunted even while he was in Philadelphia, so making that all historically accurate through the time period he did. It's obvious, but he talks about all the research that he did. And he said when he was reading the story, he kept getting hung up on no one was talking about Nancy. And so that's what launched him into telling the story.
Did you have an extra
about the research? I was lucky enough to have dinner with Jarrett one night, and he talked about doing research partly in the Houdini papers because Houdini was a big fan, had been a big fan, and through that he was able to find more stuff about Henry. And another archive, some other magician, famous magician's archive, who was also a fan of his, he talked about going through that archive and finding all sorts of information.
I'm curious because there are moments where there's a lot of people on stage, but it only focuses on like two or like a group. when you guys are sitting there talking, but you're not actually saying lines out loud, do you guys actually talk, or do you just mouth things?
We be talking
No, we
shit.
talk.
Oh, we talk.
Oh my gosh, this juice is watered down tonight. Oh, that
Yeah, we
cheese
talk
is
about
like-
everything.
Because it has to look real. Otherwise, we're like,
Yeah, it looks really stupid.
I'm just curious if it's okay if like I do that. Thank you. You validate.
Another in the back there.
Was it uncomfortable when y'all had to kiss?
You know, we have a meeting when we start rehearsal, and everybody talks about their boundaries. Everybody talks about what they're comfortable with. Everybody's like, look, if you do that, my husband's gonna kick your. You know, we have a meeting and we talk about all those things. So we have clear boundaries and we set those. That way, everybody's comfortable. Everybody knows what everybody's doing. You don't get any surprise touches. For me, that was, and we did that, and you know, we're pros. So.
which to that point, it is written. The playwright wrote that Nancy and Henry also kissed, but we made a active choice that wouldn't feel like our relationship necessarily. So if you notice, there was a lot of touch, there was a lot of face, there was a lot of that, less the intimacy. We decided that we wanted to leave that part for him and Jane, as opposed to me and him. Otherwise, we just keep doing a whole bunch of kissing on stage. No, it was a choice. So you can also, make the choice. Does this feel right? Because if it doesn't feel authentic to me, it's not going to read authentic to you.
A personal question for each of you. How does the period clothing or costumes inform or perhaps hinder your performances? Do you feel like, individually, do you feel comfortable with things, wigs, petticoats, things like that?
That wig took one of my locks out. It takes some time to get comfortable in it because it's a lot of stuff, and we don't wear a lot of stuff now. I just got on tights and a sweatshirt, but it's a lot of under. It's a lot of. Luckily, we had snaps instead of all those buttons. Otherwise, it would have took me 30 minutes to get the button things on. So it can be uncomfortable, but it gives you that back blast from the past. Like, how did they do that? How did they have time? Did they not have times to be to places? Because you need like 45 minutes to an hour just to get dressed. I have to plait this back every night and put it up and pins, and it's a lot. But it also puts you into a character because you're not your normal self. So now I get to become Nancy. I'm becoming Nancy every night.
The good thing though is no corsets.
I have some built-in corsets.
Oh,
in
you
mine.
do? I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I mean, no, they're just, those are the worst.
I know.
Yeah. I wear one for the curtains too.
There was a question over here.
Yes, did Henry have any children with either of these women?
He had women with both.
Yep.
So he left his
Quite a
family
few.
when he got in the box, and he had children. He had, I think, 2 children with Jane, and they became part of his act.
And continued to act once he died.
Yeah.
The saga continues.
I'm curious because we're students at KD and we're learning recently, like we learn acting techniques and whatnot. Recently, we're learning Chekhov technique. I'm just curious what you guys use to like get into character or like get a motivation out. Like, what comes to you? What speaks to you guys?
I'm not a big technique person. I'm not, sometimes I may be caught doing some Meisner stuff just on the whim. I am though, let me get in my own space and ground and find where I need to be and who I need to be. I don't like to run lines before the show, just because I get in my own head. And if I don't know it before the show starts, I ain't gonna know it. So me trying to run it before is useless because then I get in my own head and I forget. But I don't really channel any particular technique. It's just me getting in my own space and creating what I need to be that character.
I take parts of each. I just say, okay, this works because this will work in this rehearsal process. Because you might have a different rehearsal process. You can't do. Meisner. You don't have the time, or you don't have the resources, or you just don't have it. Or things are changing so fast you can't get that repetition that you need for whatever method. So it's really, for me, it's about picking what's appropriate and what works for the character and what works for the work. Works for the work.
Work for the work. Put that on the t-shirt.
Yeah, there you go. Hey,
It's
coming
works
to
for the
a
work.
T-shirt factory.
Catherine, you doing anything?
I probably pull a lot from Stanislavski. That was most of my training. We touched on all the other ones, but that's the one that really found it a home in my body. And just being able to figure out, no matter what kind of character that you are portraying, is finding that common element that you recognize in yourself that is also in that character. No matter whether they're maybe the worst character on the stage or the best character on the stage, there's still commonalities that you can find with yourselves. And that's always my gateway into the character, and then I figure out what the other things are.
You brought this play today. Oh, sorry.
Nothing.
Yep. Would Henry's book, would Jane be Kyrie or LeBron?
Very. Well, I didn't tear my ACL, so I can still play the rest of the season. So.
They came back and shot a free throw.
Yeah, I shot my free throw.
That's
Made them.
That's a tough question.
That's funny.
Yeah. I don't think there's an answer there.
I'm gonna get it
It's
there.
open to individual interpretation.
Absolutely.
All right, well, I think this is a good point to wrap up. Thank you everyone for staying.